Hey guys, it's Hill553. Welcome back to another Beyblade X unboxing. Today we're going to be checking out the Wave 5 booster packs from Hasbro, that being Tide Whale and Dagger Dran. So first off, we'll have a look at the packagings for both. So here is Tide Whale 580E. Nice image of Tide Whale with the open window. And on the back, just goes over the bay itself. So of course we have the Tide Whale blade, 580 and Elevate. And it is a balance type. And then for Dagger Dran, see Dagger Dran, 70Q, nice image. And on the back, just goes over the base. So of course we have the Dagger Dran blade. We have the 470 ratchet, and for the bit we have Q. And this is marketed as an attack type. So yeah, these are another two of my pickups from the Australian Nationals. So very happy to have these. So let's get into them. So, but very interested with the Dagger Dran because they actually did change up one of the parts on this from the original release, at least for this recolor, which is interesting. I'll go into that in a bit. If it wants to come out of the packaging, like jeez. And then Tide Whale, I feel like out of the two, though, everyone's gonna be wanting this one. For one main reason. Alright, I'll get the parts laid out on the table and we'll go over the bays in more detail. Alright, so here are both Tide Whale and Dagger Dran out of the packaging. So first off, we'll have a look at Dagger Dran. Now, for the most part, this is the same Dagger Dran that was included in Random Booster Volume 3 with Tyrannobeat. But they did change up one aspect of it. So here is the blade itself. Love the orange on this. So Dagger Dran is an attack type Beyblade. So you have 6 pretty big blades on this. So the idea of Dagger Dran is so it has some really nice smash attack potential. Now we'll say back when this Bay came out, it could do that really reliably. Jeez, I can't talk today. But I will say nowadays, it doesn't really do it as well. We've just had much better smash attackers released. Like Hover Wyvern, Tyrannobeat, all that. But still, Dagger Dran does have a small place in the hobby. I will say that. And I will say for Hasbro, this is the first release of this blade outside of the original Extreme Battle set. So you can now actually get this blade from Hasbro, which is pretty cool. There's the bottom. There's the QR code that you can scan into the Beyblade X app. Now, parts-wise, 470. We've talked about this ratchet so many times now. Decent ratchet, but just not the best. Now let's talk about the part that they actually did change from the original release. So, the original version of this recolor came with point. But when this got released by Hasbro, they decided to change it to Quake. Now, the ongoing theory is they decided to switch the bit out because Point has had so many releases from Hasbro, mainly from the first two waves of Beyblade X and from the collab packs. So they decided to swap out Point for Quake because this would make the third release of Quake. Now, I do kind of get the idea of changing the bit to make it a bit more useful, but I will say, I think they should have picked another bit that hasn't been widely released yet. I think if they used maybe one of the new CX bits, or even some of the other bits that haven't really been fully out yet, I think those would have been a much better pick. But I will say, the color on this the color on this Quake is really nice. So it is an attack type bit, but as you can see, it does have a lot bit of it cut off, and you have a little lump here. So it does lead to this bit to jump a bit, but at the cost of massive stamina. It's not really the most practical bit used, but it can be a fun little gimmicky little bit. But I will say it is a decent blade overall, but definitely not my favorite. Now let's focus on probably the main booster that everyone wants out of the two. We have Tide Whale. So this is the prize bay from the Whale Wave Random Booster Select. And yeah, I think everyone's going to be extremely happy to finally be able to get this. So here is the blade itself. So tie whale is a balance type blade that has 5 main intrusion points. And this blade is really, really good. It's one of the heaviest blades available at the moment. And yeah, it's really, really heavy. So Whale Wave really specializes in using its weight to deal massive recoil to destabilize its opponents, but also can use that weight for massive smash attacks. So this bay is fantastic for attack type combos and even balance type combos. And in some cases, defense type combos too, thanks to its weight. Now, probably the main drawback with this blade is its weight kind of is also its biggest weakness. Now, it's not super top heavy like Dark Perseus, but the main drawback with its weight is the recoil is that massive that it often leads to Whale Wave self-KOing itself or just destabilizing itself. Kind of similar to how Hover Wyvern does it, but Hover Wyvern manages its recoil a lot better. But this blade is still a really, really useful blade on the field and definitely acts like a nuclear bomb. I mean, I used this blade quite a bit in one of my decks quite a few months ago, and it works really, really well. So great to see that release from Hasbro. Next up, we have the 580 Ratchet. Now, 580 is not the best Ratchet for this. Now, we'll say the 5 Ratchet does match up pretty well with its intrusion points, but definitely not at that 80 height. I would definitely recommend switching to 560 or even something like 960 for this bay, as that works a lot better, but still, nice coloration on this 580 Ratchet. Finally, for the bit, besides the blade, the most exciting part, we have E, otherwise known as Elevate. Now, Elevate is one of the most practically used parts in Beyblade X so far, as it is a really, really good bit. This bit is really good for having a lot of stamina, but it also does help allow bays to help equalize and potentially spin steal. You could understand why a lot of people use this bit for something like Cobalt Dragoon to make it an excellent Wizard Rod counter, because it allows Cobalt Dragoon to be able to spin steal somewhat. Now, the first release of Elevate was really, really good, and a lot of people still use it. When they released it in the random boost, one of the other random boosters, and Pink Mammoth Tusk, the Mammoth Tusk from the Beyblade X app, the mold got changed. I'm not too sure if this got changed. I'll have to do a quick comparison to have a look, but this bit should still be really, really good. Now, the main drawback with this bit, it doesn't have the best burst resistance compared to other balance type bits. So this is definitely a bit you may need to be careful with. But still, very, very nice to finally have this bit really easily to get, because at the time of filming, Elevate is only still available in random boosters and the Rare Bay Get Battle. So this is the first time to get this bit in a standard booster. So honestly, pretty happy to finally have this. Alright, let's do some weight stem for these boosters. So we're going to start off with Dagger Dran. So let's get this turned on. So the Quake bit, this weighs 2.19 grams. The 470 Ratchet, I mean, we've weighed these so many times now, 6.38 grams. And the blade itself, this weighs 35.98 grams. That's really, really good. Just a comparison, here's the one from the Hasbro set, 34.68. I'm pretty sure this one is the more refined mold, I'm pretty sure. In fact, looking at it, yeah, I think this one is a bit more refined. You can actually kind of see there's a bit more metal there. So yeah, this one's using the more refined mold. So this one's actually quite a bit heavier. Yeah, that's like pretty much literally over a gram. That's actually pretty massive. So, pretty happy about that. I'm not too sure if all these ones are going to have the refined mold, but this mold was first released with the Asia Championship deck set, I'm pretty sure. So, to see Hasbro release this one is actually pretty nice. So, altogether, this one weighs 44.51 grams, so not bad at all. Now let's do Tide Whale. So the Elevate bit, this weighs 3.24 grams. The 580 ratchet, this weighs 7.21 grams. And the Tide Whale blade, this weighs 38.49 grams. That is really, really heavy. It's not the heaviest blade out there. I mean, the mold-free Sword Phoenix and Scorpius Sphere still hold that record. But still, at the time, this was definitely the heaviest. Oh yeah, there's the QR code for Tide Whale. I forgot to show that, but let's get this on. So all together, this weighs 48.99 grams. So really, really heavy weight here. So there's the shoe base. So let's get these a test. So that is it for my look at Tide Whale and Dagger Dran from Wave 5 of Hasbro. I will say I am actually pretty happy with these two boosters. Now, Dagger Dran, I'm actually really happy to see that they actually released the more refined mold for Dagger Dran. just adds a bit more metal onto these contact points, so you actually are getting a bit more weight on this blade, which does help it quite a bit. So, if you've been after this mold, well, you can actually get it pretty affordably now. Now, I'm not 100% certain if all of the Dagger Drans from Wave 5 are going to be using this refined mold. I can only comment on the one that I have in my hands, but this is the more refined mold, and I'm pretty happy with it. 470, I mean, it's a ratchet we've talked about so many times, but I was very surprised to see that they swapped point for Quake. I do kind of wish they swapped it to a different bit that hasn't been fully widely released yet. I mean, this is the third release of Quake from Hasbro, but I will say I won't really complain too much. I mean, this is still a nice bay overall. But Tidewell, on the other hand, this is absolutely a must-buy. No hesitation. This is one of the best releases Hasbro has done, easily. Whalewave is one of the more prized bays to get, so to be able to get the prize bay is very, very nice, and quite affordably, too. 570, I mean, it's decent ratchet, but as you saw, it is very susceptible to bursting, also with Elevate. But mainly, you want this booster for Elevate. It is one of the best bits to get, and this is now probably the most affordable way to get this bit. But yeah, but I can recommend both of these. Tidewell a bit more, but I definitely can recommend both of these. So yeah, very, very high recommendations for these boosters. But that's going to do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Beyblade X videos in the future. And until then, I'll see you all in the next video.